ticket. Standing next to me is Mike Nicholson, the proprietor of Papillon Tattoo Supply. And Mike's been kind enough to invite me down here today to see exactly what a tattoo supply place is all about. I've been in the tattoo business over 20 years, and I've never actually been into a supply factory. So again, thanks to Mike, we're going to see what the inside of a factory is like and what how things are made and so forth. And maybe Mike can tell us a little bit about the supply business and anecdotes of what that's all about. So Mike, thanks for bringing me down here today.
Okay.
I really appreciate it. And,
no problem.
We're going to just take a walk through the factory. And
sure.
I like some of the memorabilia. I noticed you had some antique pictures on the walls and
sure.
stuff, and we'll take a
sure.
look at that stuff.
Okay. Our hand-colored photographic flash. These are Bill Jones designs. And Nick Beccaro, when he was in the supply business with Billy Jones, they used to sell a box of negatives that you could produce these from, or they would sell the flash. And they did it in those days because they couldn't do the shading. They couldn't print it. So therefore, they did an actual ink shade sheet and photographed it, and then it was printed on photographic paper. So this is an actual photograph of an actual sheet that Billy Jones had done, and these two were in Nick's shop, and in Hartford from the 1950s, and so they're pretty rare item. You could actually see the gray around the edges where they were actually printed by a photographer.
Mm-hmm. And we have a whole collection on the walls here.
Yeah, and I keep these on the walls. This is Harvey Rocky Rogers in the 1940s. He was in Kentucky. There's some of his flash sheets. He tattooed around army camps. He had Princeton, Kentucky, and Memphis, Tennessee. If you'll see this old sheet here, you can see how these were later, I think there was a guy, Steamboat John, who had these later, and they were used by another artist, and they were passed around and so forth. But you could see it was near an army camp, and the ones that have naked women on them are all scribbled over because they couldn't do them. They would do one like this, and then the guy'd get in trouble back at the base, and the officer would bring them back down there, and they would have to tattoo bathing suits on the girls. So they stopped doing them. You can see that they're all crossed off.
That's pretty cool.
And here's some of his. He was in Nashville, Tennessee in 1940, and because those were the only sheets that had been, and in Princeton, Kentucky, in the 40s, around the Army bases there during the Second World War. This is an ink wash, typical the way that it was done with the India ink wash, and then hand colored with watercolors, and then they used to cut them out and place them on another board. I don't know who the artist was. The same thing. This one was done on watercolor. This one's pretty well done, nicely done, and it's also ink wash and watercolor. I don't know who it was. This one's a real old beat up one, and the artist was Randy Webb. I don't know where he worked out of. That's a famous old design. Paul Rogers had that on his leg. These are Percy Waters, and they are, oh yeah, and these are cutouts, and these are from the 1920s, and you could see that, like this dragon here was originally $2, and they had changed it to $5, so you can imagine how old that was. And these other tattoos, like these anchors and the bird, were 75 cents, and they boosted them up to $1. And these other Navy types of tattoos, also you could see that the prices have all been changed. And these were tattoos that at one time probably sold for 50 cents and 75 cents in those days.
Which was probably a lot of money.
Probably a lot of, it was a lot of money in it.
Like, what, 5 cents?
Oh yeah, nickel, yeah. Yeah, nickel for a loaf of bread.
Gasoline was what, 25 cents a gallon?
No, it wasn't
10
even
cents
that.
a gallon?
18 cents,
18 cents a gallon.
Yeah. It was 18 cents when I was a young guy, and that was before the 20s.
So if they got a couple of bucks for tattoo, that was like $100 today.
Yeah, so I mean, like, it probably was a nickel a gallon back there for gasoline.
So
but,
if you made $20 a day as a tattoo artist back then,
oh yeah,
you were making like a
you were
couple
making
$100 a
yes,
day. Something like that.
lot of money. Yes. Okay, now what else you want to see?
Well, maybe where the pigments are, your pigment room or something
okay.
like that. That's kind of interesting. It's
Yeah,
colorful.
Well, this is where they're stored, and they're put in the small bottles and so forth and so on.
Yep.
I got another room that I mix them in, but we don't allow anybody in there because I
fine.
have things that have formulas that I don't
No, I'm just interested in seeing
make public in the way that they're mixed and the
sure.
methods that are used. But this is where they
it's very
are put into the smaller bottles and then stored until they can be shipped out. Do a lot of tattoos with those.
I guess so. So you've been in business for a while.
Yeah.
It's a good looking wall.
And primarily we don't do too much machining here. I have a lot of it done outside, but we do make small parts here, like binding posts. Whereas the post is bought. It's a electrical standoff that's bought from a company standard. And we have, jigs and fixtures where we drill a hole and tap it for a screw to be placed, to make a binding post out of it. And so we do some of our, a lot of the drilling operations here.
Yep.
And believe it or not,
These are your coil wraps here?
yeah, and then we...
This is what the coils actually run the machines are made out of?
And this is the type of wire and so forth and so on. And they're wound by hand. This is talk about an antique. You must have heard of the Bill Jones machine, Jonesy machines. They're very famous.
Yep.
And this is Bill Jones's coil winder.
Oh,
This is his actual. This is his actual coil winder. I bought some stuff that he was. When Charlie Wagner died in New York, Billy Jones turned around and went to Hartford with Nick Vaccaro, and they had the supply business there. And then after Nick died, this stuff got sold off to some bootlegger somewhere here in Connecticut. He had a falling out with his wife, and I guess all this stuff was down the cellar. And she sold me what was left of this their supply business. So I do have. I've got other Billy Jones tools too. I haven't, put them up for display yet.
Yeah.
But I have his fiber punches and thing he used for a fixture that he used to make needle bars with, brass needle. You put it in and turn it and.
So how old? What year would you put this at, approximately?
Oh, that?
Yeah.
Oh God, he was he was in with Nick in the 50s, but that had probably come. That was an antique in those days.
Right.
That had came from like the old days when Charlie Wagner was in the business.
So we're talking
we're talking back in the 20s.
In the 20s or 10s.
Oh yeah,
possibly.
yeah.
18, 19, 19.
It's probably from. It was probably an old machine at the time. This was a very old coil winder that was probably turn of the century.
Yep.
So it's probably made in the 1800s.
It's amazing that you're actually able to use it today to make the machines we're using right now.
Yeah, because we make them by hand. We don't machine wind the coils.
I find that really interesting that you're using a machine that's that
right.
We're almost at the millennium and you're using a machine that was made then to make the heart. Because this is the heart of the tattoo machine. Correct?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the frame is the skeleton and the
that's the heart.
And the coils are the heart. That's the heart.
Now, basically, a tattoo machine, for the people who don't know, is nothing more than more or less a powerful doorbell motor. Is that not?
That's pretty much. Yeah. In fact, there were some of them that were made from doorbells back in the old. In fact, I saw some in foreign countries like Egypt, and you could see that they had been made out of doorbell buzzers.
Yeah. Little
yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And so.
All right. Thanks, Mike. That was very interesting.
And primarily, this is our computer operation for where we keep the
Keep the
customers' names and
customers
so forth and
stuff.
send them all out
Yeah.
and send the packages out.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to Carol? Is she around or? Oh, she went out to have a cigarette. Okay.
Yep.
And this is Cindy.
Hi, Cindy.
And she's the one you talk to on the phone usually. She takes the
Yep.
orders
Okay.
and she packs them all up
All right.
and sends them out. Puts them on that,
One of your
yeah.
one of your catalogs are here.
And we stack up the packages here, and UPS comes at the end of the evening and picks them up around 5 o'clock. So that anything that's you call in is usually shipped out at 5 o'clock, you know, by 5 o'clock, so you get it the next day. If, you know, depending on where you are.
Yep.
But it's usually a couple of days. Even regular ground UPS. As long as you're not all the way across the
We go to
country.
California, it's about a week.
Yeah. And this primarily is where we assemble the machines. Either Dave or I will put the machines together here. We have the frames. The frames are you know, up here we have all different types of frames. Like in this one, you know, it's the brass.
Oh, that's a brass coastal.
Brass coastal. These are the regular coastal aluminums.
I've never seen one of those.
Oh, is that right?
No.
Yeah.
How do they conduct electricity? Is aluminum a good conductor? Or?
No, you have to have a yoke underneath the
Oh, I see.
these,
That's what makes it different.
Yeah.
That's how they go.
an aluminum machine or a brass machine has to have a yoke
I
underneath
see.
it
I see.
to link
I
the
didn't
two
know
coils
that.
together.
Oh.
Yeah.
Even a brass machine. I didn't know that.
Yeah, anything, you know, iron machine doesn't need it, you know.
Yep. Carol, you want to come up?
Oh, I'm a mess.
Oh, that's all right.
Okay.
That's a colorful.
Go ahead, you're
shirt.
gonna.
Oh, Papillon.
Yeah. And this is Carol, is it, Mike?
Yeah.
And Carol, what is Carol's function here?
Carol usually makes all the needles and she bottles all the colors and mixes colors and so forth and so on. And
I do everything.
she does just about everything, right? Yeah.
All right. Needle making is an arduous task. I know that
Yes.
because I used to make them myself, and when I got sick of making them, actually, I started ordering them from Carol. So, they're not easy to make.
I know.
Them correctly.
That's the hardest part of the tattoo business is making needles.
Yeah. Well, without a good needle, you're not going to have a very good tattoo. So.
Well, see, I had a good teacher.
Yeah.
This again is where they make the tattoo machines.
Now, Mike, I ordered a couple of machines from you the other day. Is these two what? A couple
I
of
think,
machines?
is that his machines?
These two here, maybe?
Yep.
Yep.
Those are your machines.
Good. Well, this one's going to be mine, and the other one is for Fred Smith, one of the other artists at my studio. Doc Wilder speaking to you from Papillon Tattoo Studio in Enfield, Connecticut. Mike Nicholson, the proprietor, has been kind enough to invite me down here to visit the studio. And I must say it's quite modern and attractive and extremely sanitary. Beautiful studio. I'm extremely impressed by the professional atmosphere here. He has a fantastic array of designs. It's extremely colorful in here. And he has a talented staff that's working in the back there. And we're going to go back in the back end of the shop and visit the work area and see what that's like. Hey, well, this is Sailor Ron, or Doc Wilder, the nudist tattooer, speaking to you from Papillon Tattoo Studio in Enfield, Connecticut. And this is the proprietor, Mike Nicholson, who just came from his supply company, and now we're over at the studio. I'm really impressed with the fantastic array of designs, the professional layout, the modern ambiance of the studio is really incredible. And Mike, I want to just congratulate you on having a really fantastic studio.
Thank you very much.
State of the art, and it doesn't get any better than this.
Thank you.
I've been in a lot of tattoo studios around the country, and I can definitely tell you that to outdo this one would be a chore. It really is. This is really good.
Thank you very much.
I'm totally impressed. I actually didn't have a clue as to what I was going back into. This is really something. This is really a beautiful, beautiful